quit this long ago. Can't stand another heartbreak, but it's time to let it go. It'd be easier for me if I can't wait to flee. But there's something holding on, the way of being long gone.
To my card, I know what it costs. Yeah, I put in the work that you don't. Day after day, I work in the play. Yeah, I'll do all the things that you won't. Even when my feet get tired, I will keep on moving higher. I'm the story you don't speak of. I'm the one they call the underdog. Cause every time the push comes to shove, I'm climbing over you to reach the top. Cause I want everything and nothing at all. Yeah, I want everything and nothing at all. Cause I want everything and nothing, 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 nothing at all. Don't care what you think or what you believe, cause I'm gonna turn the world upside down. If you want a shot, just step in the ring. Yeah, I'ma shake your bones like thunder. Even when my feet get tired, I will keep on moving higher. I'm the story you don't speak of. I'm the one they call the underdog. Cause every time the push comes to shove, I'm climbing over you to reach the top. Cause I want everything and nothing at all. Yeah, I want everything and nothing at all. Cause I want everything and nothing, 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 nothing at all. I don't want nothing at all, unless I can have it all. I don't want nothing, nothing at all. I don't want nothing at all, unless I can have it all. Nothing at all. Yeah, I am not the favorite son, but I'm the one who's been here all along. Cause every time the push comes to I want everything and nothing at all. Yeah, I want everything and nothing at all. 'Cause I want everything and nothing, 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 nothing at all. I don't want nothing at all, unless I can have it all. I don't want nothing at all, unless I can have it all. No, I don't want nothing at all, unless I can have it all. I don't want nothing at all, unless I can have it all. I don't want nothing at all, unless I can have it all. You're gonna be a tough act to follow, and you better believe it. Just take a bite and see that it's gonna be too much to swallow. You better believe it. Yeah, I got one more trick, but you're gonna be a tough act to follow, to follow. All the people wanna go with desire, like the streaming with the fish in the ocean. Stay away, never come under fire. They will never ever show an emotion. I never dreamed of getting in the action. Life moves with all the surprises. I never dealt with chemical reactions. It comes down to this day. You're gonna be a tough act to follow, and you better believe it. Just take a bite and see that it's gonna be too much to swallow. You better believe it. Yeah, I got one more trick, but you're gonna be a tough act to follow, to follow. All the people wanna get in the circus, trying hard to keeping up with the Joneses. Everything is kind of trouble and purpose, and you're lying in a bed of roses. I never dreamed of getting in the action. Life moves with all the surprises. I never dealt with chemical reaction. It comes down to this. You're gonna be a tough act to follow, and you better believe it. Just take a bite and see that it's gonna be too much to swallow. You better believe it. Yeah, I got one more trick, but you're gonna be a tough act to follow, to follow. You're gonna be a tough act to follow, to follow. Oh, I feel I like the way I got up from the start. I was under pressure. I feel I got away. It comes down to this. Yeah, you're gonna be a tough act to follow, and you better believe it. Just take a bite and see that it's gonna be too much to swallow. You better believe it. Yeah, I got one more trick, but you're gonna be a tough act to follow, to follow, to follow. Yeah, you're gonna be a tough act to follow, to follow. You're gonna be, ooh.
What's up, everyone? Ooh, man, that was like good timing on that song coming in. It ended right at the countdown. That was nice. It's nice.
Yup.
Welcome, everyone.
Matthew's birthday.
No, He said in the chat,
really?
he said in the chat he's just proactive. So he's getting his sword.
Oh, okay. All right.
He's getting his sword.
Okay. All right.
He's just thinking ahead. That's
think it
Matthew,
was.
man. He thinks ahead. He's not like you, Patrick. He thinks ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, welcome
disagree with you there, my
everyone.
friend.
Welcome everyone. We made it past the countdown. So far, so good. I think we may hopefully have corrected things. So Daniel and Marco, thank you again for joining us. Apologies for last weekend. It was unexpected, but thank you for being troopers and showing up again. And let's get our Tabular Editor 3 on. I love it.
Oh yeah.
All right. So just real quick, Daniel is joining us. He is the main author or only author of Tabular Editor. I think there's a crew of people that are helping you out.
Yeah. So far, actually, I'm the only one, but we are ramping up. So
Nice.
yeah.
Thanks. So today we're gonna kind of highlight Tabular Editor 3 and kind of what you can do with it. So we will be prioritizing questions on DAX and Tabular Editor specifically. If we don't see a lot of them, we'll get to other questions that are there. So if we don't get to your question, just be sure to check in the next live stream, and we'll do what we can. But specifically, we want to make good use of Daniel's time and also of Marco's. So we're going to try and get to the core of those. Hopefully, we get some good stuff. First off, thank you. Well, not first off, because we already did that. But thank you to all the members of Guy in a Cube. We just really appreciate what you do, just helping us do what we do here on Guy in a Cube. So thank you so much. If you see folks with the green name or the Guy in a Cube logo next to them, those are members of Guy in a Cube. We appreciate everything they do. So go check that out. There's a join button down below, or if you're on the mobile app, it's on the side, I think. You can go click that to learn more. No commitments required. Just thank you for checking it out. And we will not be having a member-only chat in today's session because we're going to have Daniel's going to go through just a couple minutes talking about Tabular Editor 3, kind of introduce and set the stage for everything, and then we'll just go through questions on there. We'll try to get to as many as we can. Also, if you're new here to Guy in a Cube, if this is your first time on the live stream or just first time to Guy in a Cube, thank you so much for checking us out. Put hashtag new in the chat. We always love seeing the new faces and seeing who's around. So thank you for that. Also, big accomplishment for me today. The Chatmaster C shirt is available in the Guy in a Cube store. So go check that out over on giacstore.com. Or you can go to GuyInACube/merch up on the stream and go check that out. So I know she's been getting on to me. So she can stop nagging me on that one. Chatmaster C is happy, which means I'm happy. So now we have to get Alex's shirt. We're working on that too. Alex, I need to get you some stuff for review on that. So definitely go check that out. Again, no commitments. Just thank you for again helping to support us here on Guy in a Cube. All right, so some news there. We got Nora. We got Read It or Rediet. Or it said glasses. I don't know what that is. Joshua's new.
Hey, talk about my glasses.
Oh. Yeah, sometimes you wear your glasses. You said your contacts are kind of bugging you a little bit. Sima's
right now.
new... Go ahead.
Right now, I'm Clark Kent. I'm Clark Kent.
But
now I'm
that.
Superman.
So I did that at Ignite because a lot of my videos, I wasn't wearing glasses, and then I got old and I needed glasses. I was at Ignite and I wore my glasses at Ignite, but they weren't in the videos. And this guy came up to me saying like, "You look familiar," and I went. He's like, "No way!" Guy in a Cube, and I'm like, "Wow, that Clark Kent stuff works." Like that's
that's right.
What happened to my? Oh, I pulled my headphones out, so I stopped hearing everything, and I freaked out for a second. Oh, there we go. Ooh, my heart skipped a beat there. Ooh, all right. So Sima's new. Who else we got that's new? I don't see many others. So. Lunify's new. Awesome. Welcome, everyone. Welcome. All right. Questions. So get your questions ready. Again, we're going to prioritize DAX and Tabular Editor. So put Q: in front of the questions. Chatmaster C is standing by. As her shirt says, we have a 3 strikes rule here on Guy in a Cube. So if you please don't spam the question. One time's all you need, and we will get it queued up. We get to as many as we can. We don't ever get to all of them because there's always so many. So, just come back next time and we'll try and get it then. All right, Daniel, let's start off. Daniel, tell us what Tabular Editor 3 is all about. Why should we care about Tabular Editor 3? Go get it, and all the amazing things that are inside of it. Please share with us.
Yeah, thank you, Adam. Well, as some of you may know, I've been working for the past 4 or 5 years on this open source tool called Tabular Editor, and it's been mentioned a couple of times also on the Guy in the Cube stream. And I think at this point, most people who do data modeling with Power BI have probably at least heard about it. And so, actually, what prompted me to sort of create a new version of Tabular Editor, sort of as a new product, was that I got a lot of feedback on the open source version, mainly people asking about, hey, can we get IntelliSense when writing DAX? That has been sort of the main driver, the main thing, the thing that I've heard the most times during the years. And so I figured, well, yeah, I certainly want to provide some kind of IntelliSense option, but I want to do it right. I want to give the user the feeling that when they're authoring DAX code, that the suggestions that the autocomplete stuff comes up with, that it's actually right. It's not just a list of measures or columns or whatever. It has to actually understand the semantics of the DAX code that you type, and it has to do the right thing. And so I actually asked Microsoft.
Daniel, we do like when it does the right thing. That is always appreciated.
Yeah, exactly. And I actually went to Microsoft like 3 or 4 years ago. That was back in 2017, saying, hey, you guys, I want to create a great editor for DAX, but in order to do that, I need some way to parse the DAX code to understand the semantics. So would you guys be willing to like share the DAX parser that, of course, you have internally in analysis services? And they said no. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to write my own then. And so that's what I did. Yeah, go ahead, Marco.
May I fix it?
Marco's using a Teams feature.
Yeah, a Teams feature. Now, the true story is they didn't say no. They made something worse. They said, yes, maybe. So what do you do when they say yes, maybe? You wait. And so we wasted how much, Daniel? 1 year?
Yeah, I think maybe. It was 1 year. Yeah.
So think about this. We could have been here 1 year before if they say no immediately. Because if you want to say no, say no. If you say yes, maybe, you hope, right? And no hope is better. Oh, anyway, sorry. I'd like to fix the history, right? Okay. No.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So once it was clear that Microsoft was not going to provide an open source parser for DAX or anything like that we could use in the tool, I just had to, write my own. And that actually turned out to be a pretty big undertaking, and I had to involve Marco as well on his expertise. And I really got to say, I mean, this whole experience about creating this parser for DAX really taught me a lot. Because when I started on this, I wouldn't say I was very good at writing DAX code. I mean, as a consultant, I was probably good enough. But I wasn't anywhere near Marco's and Alberto's level. But writing the DAX parser definitely, I had to understand everything about, filter, context transition, all of that.
You got intimate with DAX at that point.
Absolutely, yes, yeah. And the parser itself was the enabler for the IntelliSense that we now have in this new product, Tabular Editor 3, and also for a lot of other stuff that Tabular Editor 3 can do. In a minute, I'd like to show you a demo of some of these things, like the DAX scripting and how it infers all of the static type information as you type the DAX code. And so there's a lot of stuff going on that we can do now that we have the parser. But since I invested so much time in this, and my boss was pretty angry with me at the time because I was sort of skipping customer projects just to be able to work on the parser and stuff. So we figured we had to come up with something that we couldn't just give this away for free. So we had to come up with a way of sort of being able to gain some revenue from it in one way or another. So we decided that we wanted to launch Tabular Editor 3 with all of its features as a commercial product, but at the same time, we want to make sure that the open source version of Tabular Editor, which still lets you do everything from a data modeling perspective, will still be available, will still be free. and will still be kept up to date when there are updates to the client libraries and so on. So it's very, very important for me to clearly state that, well, from a data modeling perspective, everything you can do with Tabular Editor 3 is also possible with the open source version. But then we provide a lot of goodies like the IntelliSense, all of that stuff in addition. And that's basically what you're paying for when you purchase a commercial license. So that's the idea anyway.
All right, Daniel, enough all this talking. I know Patrick wants you to get over to your desktop. Show us something.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right.
So first of all, just a quick, so we have the website. I think you linked it earlier as well, Adam, the tabulator.com website, which has been completely revamped for this release. You can find the pricing here, the pricing details. If you click on any of these titles here, you can find some more details on what's included and what the limitations are for the various editions. And then, of course, if you scroll down, we have a link to the open source version as well. So just want to get that out of the way. So let's go over to my Windows machine because, unfortunately, still Tabular Editor is a Windows-only product. So if there were any questions around whether it can run on Mac or Linux, I'm afraid I have to disappoint you. It's still a Windows-only product. So this is the main user interface when you launch it the first time. As you can see, this looks more or less like some other development environment that some of you may be familiar with. And in fact, it's just as configurable. So if you like it to look different, we also have this classic workspace, which sort of changes the elements of the UI so it looks more like the old version of Tabular Editor, if that's what you prefer. But it's completely configurable, meaning if you want to drag the expression editor over here or put it on a different monitor or whatever, then you can do that. Let me switch back to the default workspace because I prefer that. And then basically the user interface is, the features that are here are like, I tried to lean against the open source version as much as possible. So you will recognize the menu options like loading a model from a file or a database or folder structure. It uses the entire same file format as the old version of Tabular Editor. So what we can do, for example, is we can let's try to connect to, in this case, it's a Power BI Premium per user workspace, where I just prepared a small data set. Let me just log in here. So we have this demo data set here. And then very simple data set here was just a single table, so it's not really that interesting. But the main thing I wanted to show in this demo is that if we go and click on a measure here and we start to edit the measure expressions, you will see what I talked about earlier with the IntelliSense that pops up as we type, even providing information about the parameters here. So we can see now we're typing sumx, so now it expects a table expression, which is an iterator. So here we can type lectures, for example, and then in the expression, it then shows us valid options that we can type in as the expression, which also happens to be evaluated in a row context, right? And notice here how the actual table actually has 4 columns, but the autocomplete only suggested the 3 of them. So any guesses as to why it's only suggesting these 3? It's only suggesting the lecture ID, the part, and the tag, and not the type of. Had to take a guess? No? Okay, I'll tell you why. It's because type of is a string column, and sumx doesn't work with strings, so there's no reason to show that in the autocomplete box. So things like that is what the DAX parser enables us to do to make it work in a very intelligent way. It understands everything about columns that you add using syntax like add columns. Oh, hang on. Sumx add columns, and then type lectures, and then let's take tag and see it even types in the name of this column. But now it gives us an error message because this table already contains. Oh yeah, you can see if you hover over this, it now shows the error message that sumx requires 2 parameters. Let's change the name of this to something like test, and you can see even the new extended column. So everything is there, it just works. And even the error messages, if you make a typo somewhere, it even tells you exactly what's going on and where you have the error messages and underlining the areas where there are issues with your code. So yeah, all of this is what the DAX parser enables, basically.
Awesome. All right. So what do you say we get to some questions?
Absolutely. Fire away.
And then we'll let maybe the questions will drive us into some more of the features that we can show. All right,
Yeah.
so let's go. I'm just going to start from the beginning. Thomas was the first question in the queue. Thomas. All right. Is Tabular Editor a good tool supported by Microsoft in case something breaks in Power BI service built with Tabular Editor?
Okay, great question. Yeah, so I think Marco even answered that in the chat, but just in order to repeat it, the answer is that Tabular Editor, and that goes for both the open source version and Tabular Editor 3, uses a client library provided by Microsoft called the Tabular Object Model, AMO library. And that means that any change that Tabular Editor performs to the model metadata goes through this Microsoft provided library, meaning that all of these changes are supported. So in other words, in reality, you cannot make a change to your model inside Tabular Editor, which would not be supported by Microsoft. However, there is one important distinction. If you happen to be using Tabular Editor or any other tool basically as an external tool for Power BI. So if you have the tool installed and you launch it from Power BI while you're working on an imported or direct query model in Power BI Desktop, then you should be aware that there are some limitations to the data modeling operations that you can perform. And that's actually one of the questions I get a lot when people start using Tabular Editor against the Power BI Desktop model, is that they don't understand why they cannot add new tables, for example, or change the properties of columns in the model. And that's simply because the integration for external tools against Power BI Desktop is limited at the moment. So there's only a few data modeling operations that are supported. So you can define and edit measures, for example, as seen here in the documentation. You can add calculation groups, perspectives, and apply metadata translations and some stuff about row level security, object level security. But you cannot add or edit tables and columns. So that's one of the limitations that are right now. So just be aware that's only, of course, when you are working directly against a model that is loaded into Power BI Desktop. So once the model has been published to the Power BI service, or if you're working against an analysis services or Azure analysis service model, then there are no such limitations, and you can basically do everything.
Love it. Daniel, real quick, the link to that doc, can you throw that in the chat? I was trying to find it.
Oh, yeah.
And I always struggle finding that doc.
Is that in the vMix chat, or where do I put it exactly?
YouTube,
or just in the
YouTube chat.
Yeah, sure.
Yep.
Yeah, here we go.
Awesome. You're moderator, so that should work. All right, Marco.
Theme feature. Now, I want to clarify one thing, because when there is a legal aspect that I think that everybody may want to know, which is the following. Based on European Union regulation, Microsoft has to provide the protocols to communicate with a server product. And this is why they don't have to do that for Power BI Desktop, because Power BI Desktop is a client application. So for this reason, they have to support tools like Tabular Editor, not because it is Tabular Editor, but because it is using the library and the protocols that they have to document for the server products. And this includes both analysis services and Azure analysis services, and probably also Power BI Premium or Power BI with an XMLA endpoint. And this just clarifies the point. So because of that, you can expect, because Microsoft cannot do a product for Europe and a product for the United States. So they basically adapted the product to the European Union regulation. You can expect this not going to change anytime soon for the server products. Of course, for the client products, they are not forced. They would like to improve the features of the client product. And it is not that they don't want to do that. Simply, they have to put development effort to implement the integration between the Power BI Desktop and these APIs. And they are not investing on that because they are doing other stuff.
Also, like, there's a lot of folks at Microsoft that use Tabular Editor and DAX Studio. So that happens all the time. And there's feedback that goes back and forth if something is a problem. I remember on DAX Studio, Marco, we were talking about some of the connection timeout piece and working that against the XML endpoint and
fix it now.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fixed. So
Fix
so
it now.
there's a lot of communication that goes on regarding that. So yep. All right. And Chris, thank you for the super chat. Very much appreciated. He mentioned, so just a shout out to Daniel and Marco for all of this free information and the hard work. Well done. Thank you, Chris. Much appreciated. All right. Next question. Let's see here. Let's go to, all right, Kevin was the next one. How can Tabular Editor 3 help upgrade an analysis services model to a Power BI dataset? Paul Turley's question from last week.
Okay, great question. Well, currently there's no like built-in feature, like there's no button you can press that just says convert to Power BI dataset. But you can still go through the model and change the various properties that you have to change. So, for example, one of the main differences between an analysis services model and a Power BI dataset is the way that data sources are handled. So, just as an example, let me show on my desktop here. So, for example, if you consider this instance of Tabular Editor, this is the one that's connected to the Power BI report file here in the background.
We cannot see. We cannot see the screen.
Oh, can you share
Sorry,
my?
there you go.
There
you go.
Yeah. Okay. So this instance of Tabular Editor is connected to this Power BI report file, and so here you'll notice that in the model.bim file, so in the model metadata, there are no explicit data sources. Instead, all of the data sources are actually defined within each partition on each table. So here it says that, so this was actually a bad example because all of the data is inline in this binary, but you could imagine that you had some Power Query code here that connects to a database or does some stuff to get the data. Whereas on an analysis services dataset, so I got one of those handy as well. Let me connect to my local hosts and let's load the AdventureWorks database. Here you'll see that there's an explicit data source, which basically points to a local SQL Server database that I have. So this is one of the things you will need to change in your model. You'll need to convert this explicit data source into corresponding partition queries that includes the connection information, so the server name, the database name, and so on each partition. And as of right now, there are no features in Tabular Editor that helps you do that. But once you do it for a single table, it's an operation that you can basically repeat and apply for all the tables. And if you're not afraid of a little bit of C# code, then you can actually use the macro editor in Tabular Editor 3 to maybe create a macro that helps you apply this logic or change across all of the table partitions. And speaking of the macro editor, just let me show that now. So this is basically the way you started. If you choose File, New, and then C# script, then you get into this script mode where you can write a C# script that applies changes to your model. And this was also a feature we had in the open source version of Tabular Editor. But now, look here, we have this little record button. So this helps you get started writing a script. So if we click on this button, now it says recording. And now let's try, for example, to add a new measure to one of our tables. We give this measure a name. We call it test recording. And we go over to the expression editor and we type some stupid DAX expression here. And as we make these changes, you can see how the macro recorder generates the C# code that we will need to replicate these operations that we are performing. So let's just do one more thing. Let's add a description here that says hello, and also move this into a display folder called folder. And let's then stop the recording. And now see what happens when we click the play button to run the script. Then it'll just create more copies of this measure that has been set up in exactly the same way with the description and the display folder and so on. So this is, if you don't know C# code, this can help you get started writing the code you need to automate things. Yeah.
Yeah, Patrick was playing around with that too, and perhaps has a video coming.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah,
I like it. I like it. Stay tuned.
Very nice.
I like it.
Very nice.
Yeah.
All right.
Can I show one more feature before you jump into the next question? Yeah.
Sure.
So this is just one scripting option that we have with Tabular Editor 3, which is this C# script. But Tabular Editor 3 also introduces the concept of DAX scripts. So let's have a look at what DAX scripts are. And actually the easiest way for me to show that, hang on, let me get rid of these test recording measures I created. Notice right now I'm just using the undo functionality to get rid of these. So now we're back to where we were when we started. Here we go. So if you have a measure, if you have a table like this that contains many measures, you can either, to start with the DAX scripting, you can either choose one of these measures or multiple measures, right-clicking and then choose the script DAX option, or you can even do it on the entire table or even on the entire model. So let's try this and see what happens. So Tabular Editor generates this script that then holds all of the DAX expressions of all of the measures in my model.
You need to make that bigger.
Yeah.
That's my old eyes.
Yeah. So you will notice that not only do we have all of the measures here with their DAX expressions, we also have some of the properties like format string, descriptions, and that kind of stuff that we can change using the DAX script.
Nice.
And where it gets really cool is that when you combine this feature with some of the querying capabilities that we have with Tabular Editor 3, like maybe writing a DAX query or using the pivot grid option. Let me show both. So here's just a regular DAX query like DAX Studio and other tools can do.
Wait, so I think Patrick wants to say something. Sorry, go Patrick.
Okay.
Go back.
Wait.
So I can take the entire model. I can script my whole model. I got 100 measures. Can I format them? Can I do stuff to them directly in that script view? And then if I press one button, it deploys it all out.
Yes.
You gotta be kidding me. You gotta be fucking kidding
French
me.
toast,
right? That is awesome, Daniel. That's what I miss in my video. I did not do this in my video. That is awesome. That is awesome.
Adam, I told you, get the screenshot of Patrick when this happened.
That's why I cut to it. I saw him react. He's just I got it.
I want to add a small history about that. Many years ago, the script that you have seen was part of an add-in for Visual Studio that was originally written by a Microsoft employee in his free time. Then this add-in was deployed for Visual Studio 2010 or something like that. We ported the code to Visual Studio 2015, I think, or 2012, 2015. But then we stopped because every new release required a lot of work. But the idea is that the script was working for the entire model. So when Microsoft said, we discussed with Microsoft, bring this script into Power BI. When we discussed about the syntax, right? We should include the format, we should include that, not that. So we defined a spec for this. And it stayed there for 1 year. Then we said, okay, Daniel, we had to implement this in Tabular Editor because nobody will ever implement it. And this was a feature that was present in Visual Studio in 2012. Mm-hmm. So now we have this back, finally. But so for this, I'm sorry if it seems I'm angry, but just want to explain that actually this is not rocket science. I mean, we already had this a lot of years ago, and we just got used to have a UI that is too simple, right? Yeah. And so now we have something that make our life more productive.
Yeah. And I would say, so I was a consultant 15 years ago before we had tabular models. At the time, we only had the multidimensional analysis services multidimensional model. And at least with those, we had something called the MDX script, which allowed you to work with all of your MDX measures in a single document. So this is definitely a step towards that direction.
And also Qlik works this way. Qlik has the same UI, and so Qlik was not exactly a tool for advanced developers. So I always wonder why you are scared about providing this syntax in Power BI. But now it's over. We have it.
So we got it.
Fine.
All right.
Can you go back to my screen, Adam? Because I just want to finish up the DAX script to blow Patrick's mind.
Patrick interrupted you. Yes. All right.
Okay. So
that was amazing,
one other
Daniel.
thing.
That was amazing. Man.
Yeah, and I'm not even done. So
exactly.
But wait, there's more.
Yes, exactly. Wait, there's more.
So there's a button up here. You can also launch it through the new that lets you run a
zoom in.
Yeah.
Zoom a little bit. Yeah.
Lets you create a pivot grid, which is very similar to the pivot tables that you can create using Excel. So if you create that one and then you drag in a couple of measures, like let's say we want to see net sales and we want to see returns and we want to slice that by, I don't know, customer age. Oh, that wasn't related. Let's get rid of that and let's take something from the product table instead. In fact, since I don't really know this model a lot, so let's find out what's actually related to this measure. So let's do just a quick detour here. Let's create a new diagram. So we click the new diagram button and we drag in our sales table onto that diagram and zoom out a little bit so we can better see what's going on. Right click on the table and choose add all related tables. And Tabular Editor draws this little diagram for us so we can see, I see now, okay, sales is related to product, store, customer. So that's the kind of dimensions that I can use to slice these values. So, okay, let's get rid of this diagram again. Let's go back and let's get the customer age. Yeah, so now we're starting to see some figures here that may make sense. I don't know. Okay, so now we have some nice numbers. We could also create those using a DAX query if that's what we wanted. Now let's go back over to our DAX script and change some.
Daniel.
Yeah, go ahead.
Move the pivot grid at the bottom so you can show both together, because I think it's interesting to see the dynamics of this.
Okay,
once you complete the.
I think I need to do something like new.
Let's
get rid of. Okay, so like this, we can see here in the middle we have the DAX query, and over here we have the pivot grid, and then on the left side we have the DAX script. And now imagine that you're working on a desktop machine with multiple monitors. Then you could go ahead and drag the DAX query window over to one monitor and the pivot grid on another. That's completely up to you. So over here on the left, back in our DAX script, let's go ahead and make a change to our net sales measure here. So just for fun, let's try to multiply this by 3.14, and also let's try to change the format string a little bit. So instead of this format string with dollar signs, let's do something like, I don't know, just some other format string so we can at least see the difference. And we could make changes to other measures as well, but for now, let me just only change this one measure. Now I click one button here, the apply and sync button, which does two things. The first is that it updates the local tabular model with the changes I made to this measure. And the next thing it does is that it saves those changes back to the instance of analysis services that I'm working on. In this case, it's Power BI Desktop. And at the same time, it's going to refresh the query view and the pivot grid. So let's see what happens. So now I'm pressing the button, and keep an eye on the results here in the query view and the pivot grid view. So clicking the button now, and there we go. And you saw how the figures and the format string changes. Yeah. So you can imagine if you're working on complex DAX code with lots
Wait a minute,
Go ahead, Patrick.
Hang on.
I was sitting on the button for Patrick. I was watching his faces. That was great.
Wait a minute. So now, are you trying to eliminate Power BI Desktop or something? Because now I'm in the Tabular Editor. I don't think people realize how important this is, though, right? Because whenever I create a measure, then even if I'm in the Tabular Editor, wherever I'm creating my measure at, I still have to go over to Power BI Desktop. If I don't know how to write DAX, right? If I can't write a DAX query, I got to head over to Power BI Desktop, create a table or a visual to make sure it works. Now I don't have to go back. I stay right inside of Tabular Editor. I drag and drop, I break some DAX, I optimize some DAX, I fix some DAX, and then automatically when I press that little button, I can see my results and validate whether they work or not without going to another environment. Is it just me? Yep. Is it just me?
There is one thing more.
Okay.
You can press Shift F5.
Okay.
Shift F5. Done. So you don't leave your fingers from the keyboard. You don't have to move the mouse too. It's
shortcut keys for the win.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, I'm going back on mute. Okay, I'm going back on mute.
All right.
Yeah, and that's some other like nice small things. So for example, here we have this other measure, net sales PM, which references the first measure. And you can imagine that if you have a complex script here. For example, if you forget what the definition of this WIF units returned average, so you just right click it and you can either jump to that and it'll highlight it for you, or if we go here, for example, we can use the peak definition and it'll show a little nested editor here that shows you the definition of this particular measure, so that you can easily find what you're working on. And you can even do stuff like refactoring your code. So I don't even know if this document has a variable somewhere. It seems like this model is not using variables, which is a bad practice not to use them.
It's very bad.
Just imagine,
shame on you.
Yeah, just imagine. I didn't create this. This is a sample. But just imagine you had some variable here, and you want to rename this variable to something else, but you don't want to do a search and replace in the document.
Yes, you got to zoom.
Yeah. You don't want to do a search and replace because you risk breaking other stuff that could have the same name if you just do a simple search and replace. So instead, we use the rename variable option here, which will highlight all the instances of that variable in the same scope, so that you know that you will only be renaming the variable that you actually defined here, and not some other thing that just happens to have the same name somewhere else in the document. Nice. So here we can type something else. So this is
cool.
The goal here was to provide the best possible DAX code editing experience. So that's nothing less we aim for with this here.
How much development do you think anybody's going to do in Power BI Desktop now? I mean, I'm going to create all my reports. I'm going to create all my visuals and all my reports in Power BI Desktop. But if I get a chance to use Tabular Editor, right, if I can convince my organization to make that investment, I'm trying to figure out why wouldn't, and I saw some questions in the chat, and I had a conversation with someone at work last week. I think I told you about it, Adam, about why wouldn't I use Tabular Editor, I'm sorry, I'm jumping the line, but why wouldn't I use Tabular Editor, Daniel? Why would I stay away from it? Why wouldn't I use it? What's the disadvantages of it?
Well, that's obviously the cost.
Daniel's got nothing. I knew it. It's loaded. He's got nothing. There's no disadvantages.
Well, the limitations. So the limitations on Power BI Desktop are probably going to be the biggest gating factor.
Yeah. Sorry. But if I have premium capacity though, right? If I have premium per user or premium capacity, then I have access to everything, just like a normal SSAS model though, right? What am I missing?
Absolutely.
Somebody please tell me, what am I missing?
I won't be able to tell you that. No, but you gotta understand that I mean, for a long time, BI professionals have actually needed some kind of professional development environment for the data model itself. I mean, we of course we had the Visual Studio for the analysis services tabular model, but come on, I mean, that stuff was basically just Power Pivot from Excel that had been migrated over to Visual Studio. So, yeah. And that's where Tabular Editor came in like 5 years ago. And now we have this version with all of the features that you expect from an actual development environment. So, yeah, I say go buy it.
No, it's great. It's great.
All right, let's get to.
So I'm excited.
Yeah, let's get to some of the other questions here. So we got about 20 minutes or so left. So let's see if we can get through a bunch of these. So Zap's got a question. I might be wrong, but last time I checked, it was only possible to edit measures in Tabular Editor, not visual tables created in DAX. Is that right? And any changes in the new version?
So it sounds like that SAP here was editing a model in Power BI. And as I mentioned earlier, that's some of the limitations that we have right now, that Tabular Editor do not let you make changes to the model that are not supported by Power BI Desktop.
Yeah.
If you do feel courageous, actually for calculated tables, it sometimes works, but don't rely on it.
Use it at your own
just
risk.
Yeah, exactly. And just like in the open source version of Tabular Editor, there is actually a button or a checkbox, a setting you can make to allow unsupported modeling operations. But just keep in mind that this potentially breaks your PBIX file, so it's on your own risk. Yeah.
Yep.
Can I say one word? I don't know, Daniel, if you do agree, but if you want to make these changes, you might have a better experience by doing the changes over the template file. Because when this way the Power BI, refreshes the model when you import it, and there are less side effects of doing the change online.
Yeah, I mean it's still completely unsupported, but
I know.
But sometimes it works, and it may work better with the template file than directly against the model itself.
Yep.
All right. Cool. Mark's got a question here. Is there any way preferences or settings in Tabular Editor 3 that will default all my measures to start on line 2 so that the formatted DAX looks better back over in Power BI Desktop?
Not right now, but I am actually working on just implementing exactly this feature because I got the feature requests for that like 3 or 4 days ago.
Nice.
So absolutely, I want to be able to provide a setting for that because it looks better in the formula bar if you start on the next line, right? So yeah.
Nice. All right, Marshall. Can I install Tabular Editor 3 on different PCs? How many?
Okay, so for the different licenses, we have different options in terms of how many installations you can have. I believe the default right now for desktop and standard editions is that you can install them on one machine only, and you will need to contact our support if you need to install it elsewhere. For the enterprise edition, we allow up to 3 installations. But I should say that this is something that could change in the future as we receive feedback on this area. And if it turns out that our support department are drowning in emails about people wanting to reinstall Tabular Editor somewhere else, then we may change these limitations. But right now, 1 installation for desktop, 1 installation for standard edition, and 3 installations for the enterprise edition.
Excellent. All right. And then, folks, just a reminder, if you do have questions, please put Q: in front of it. Get into as many as we can. All right. Let's see here. So Chris has a question here. We see Tabular Editor 3 as the future of enterprise model management. When will we get Git integration to facilitate source control within the tool?
Yeah, great question, Chris. And Git integration is on the backlog. It's something that I definitely want to provide because it just makes a lot of sense that you can commit your code changes directly from inside the tool, that you don't need to switch over to the Git command line or Visual Studio Team Explorer or whatever you would use for committing changes to Git. So it is on the backlog. I think a cautious timeline right now would be Q3 or Q4. So definitely this year. And it's pretty high on the priority lists of things we want to ship. So yeah, sometime this year.
Excellent. All right, SBD's got a question here, and I think the answer is going to be go to the website. How do we contact support for Tabular Editor 3?
Yeah, so the website would be a good place to start. We have the support menu up on the right corner of the screen. And there should be a I should say that dedicated support where you contact us through an email and get someone to look into your specific problem, and you can share some files or screenshots or whatever. That is something that we reserve only for our enterprise edition customers. But we do have this GitHub site. We call it our community support page, where everyone can ask questions and receive feedback. And we definitely strive to answer everyone's questions. And this is also a good place to report bugs or feature requests. So that's the idea, basically. It's a continuation of what we did with the open source version of Tabular Editor. But now we also want to, to sort of provide some more value for our enterprise customers. We want to be able to offer them dedicated one-on-one support. And so for those, they will have another option. But everyone else, we have this page here that you can just, go ahead and let us know if you have some issue.
Excellent. All right. Susan's got a question here. I'd like to understand more about best practices for formatting measures within Tabular Editor 3 and for calculation groups.
All right. So I'm not sure this is a Tabular Editor 3 specific question, because this is more about how to format measures. So I believe Susan is referring to the dynamic formatting option that we have now with calculation groups. Maybe, I don't know, Marco, would you like to say a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think we have an article about this on SQLBI about how to format measure dynamically with the calculation groups and the measures. There are mainly limitations today because not all of the visuals support that dynamic format string in Power BI. So Microsoft still didn't release the custom visual support for that, or it has been released but is not implemented yet in many custom visuals. And there are a few native visuals of Microsoft that don't support that. So that's the biggest issue. So
and those are being
nothing
worked on.
that
So
can
that should get better over time.
Yeah, of course. But it's not related to something that you can do in Tabular Editor 2 or 3. I mean, this is not relevant.
Yep. All right. Chris Jones has a question. Is your DAX parser available for independent consumption? So write my own code formatter.
No, right now it's proprietary. That may change, but the answer right now is no.
Yep. If I can say one thing here, creating a parser is a lot of work.
That's a lot.
You cannot even imagine, especially for because the DAX language is a particular language that has many complex things to manage, especially if you want to do so. For the purpose of formatting code, it's a little bit easier. So if your only goal is to format the code, you can get an existing parser, generic parser. You can customize it for the syntax of DAX, and then you can write your own. The reason why we didn't release the code for DAX formatter is that it would be dangerous. And let me explain you why. The way DAX formatter works, it doesn't just move the code. It just rewrite the code, which means that if there is a bug, you will lose some part of the code that you write. And I know, I'm 100% sure that at least 30% of the people don't refresh, don't update the code. So this would be, after so many years, we would have too many different versions around with bugs, completely impossible to track. So this was the reason behind creating this in a service and not providing the source code. That's the main reason. And if you want to write your own, of course you can, but you are on your own. And maintaining that, it's up to you. Because again, Microsoft doesn't provide an open source version that would be the more reasonable solution for this problem. But we don't have that, so we have to live with that.
Yep. All right. So King Cat's got a question here on pricing for education. Will there be a reduced price license for Tabular Editor 3 for education and nonprofits?
So we're still working on figuring out exactly what kind of offerings we want to provide in that area. So for now, I'll say please reach out to our sales team, and they will get back to you.
Excellent, excellent. So this is Didier's got an interesting question. So are there any common code between Tabular Editor 2 and 3? So like, I guess like you even mentioned Tabular Editor 2, the open source version is still there and people can use that if they need to. But like, what are the, like, I guess what's common between them or what's not common, and like, why would I need to go to 3 versus 2 or?
Yeah. So from a technical perspective, I believe Didier might be interested in the code base because I know he does some stuff on GitHub as well. There is actually one component from Tabular Editor 2, the open source library, that is also used by Tabular Editor 3. And that's a component I call the Tom wrapper. It's basically a wrapper library around Microsoft's Tom client library, which is the library that provides, so the Tom wrapper is the component that allows stuff like doing copy pasting of items, undo, redo, that kind of stuff. Which are features that exist in both Tabular Editor 2 and Tabular Editor 3. I also copied over some code that the scripting engine uses, the C# scripting. But other than that, all of the UI stuff has basically been remade from scratch. It's an entirely new UI tool stack that's being used in Tabular Editor 3. But the Tom wrapper actually exists in both versions.
Nice. Thanks. All right, Norb's got a question here. Is there a portable version available for purchase? And maybe explain like the portable version. Like some people may not understand what that means.
I think what's being referred to here is the ability to use Tabular Editor on a machine where you do not have administrative rights to install any tools. And we did actually provide a portable version for the open source version of Tabular Editor, and we are definitely also going to provide one for Tabular Editor 3. Right now, we don't have one available as a download, but it will come very, very soon. If you need it right now, please reach out to us, and we can just zip up the binaries to you and send them to you in an email, and then you have a portable version. But yeah, very soon it will be available as a download from the website. The licensing for that will, of course, be the same as for the non-portable version.
Nice. All right. Let's see here. So Cosman's got a question on the workspace mode. So is that a commercial feature only?
Yeah, so workspace mode is a feature that is only in Tabular Editor 3. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe Patrick may have a few things
Patrick
to
had
show
a love
about
fest
this.
with that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, so I didn't want to
tuned.
show it because
Stay tuned.
I didn't, yeah,
Stay
exactly.
tuned.
I want Patrick to show you what the workspace mode is all about. But yes,
stay
it's
tuned.
only a
Stay
feature
tuned.
in Tabular Editor 3.
Patrick, is that going to be in Wednesday's video?
That is, you got to watch it all the way to the end, though. You got to watch it all the way to the
Wednesday's
end. I'll save
video.
the best part for the end.
Unboxing
Yeah,
Tabular
Wednesday's
Editor
video.
3, Wednesday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. So great. I know he loved it. Like he called me up. He was just like,
What the French toast?
and he was going off on it.
No, it was great. It was great.
All right. Kendall's got a question just about like where do we go from here? So what are you thinking about for the future of Tabular Editor? And just some other people asking too, like when's the DAX automatic writing stuff just going to come in Tabular Editor because so we don't have to write anymore?
But hang on, didn't Microsoft just ship that with Power BI recently?
It was announced. It was announced. It has not shipped.
Okay.
So.
Yeah. Okay. So if you go to the community GitHub site for Tabular Editor 3, I did actually post this roadmap, which shows sort of the features that we are working on.
Nice.
One feature that I particularly would like to point out is our DAX debugger, and it's written here in Q3, Q4. And this is again one of those things that the DAX parser that I created have enabled. I don't think I want to say too much about that, but I just want to say that figuring out what's going on with your DAX code and why it's returning the figures that it's doing is going to be a lot easier once you have this tool. And this is going to be a part of Tabular Editor as well.
Excellent. Can you drop that link in the chat, by the way, in the YouTube chat? Excellent. All right. So Paul's got a question. We've kind of touched on this a little bit before already, but using Tabular Editor 3, are we any closer to having the ability to migrate a model.bim file to a PBIX file, assuming the incompatibility features haven't been used?
So yeah, as I said before, there are no new features in Tabular Editor 3 that makes this any easier than it is with Tabular Editor 2. You would still have to go through the model making the changes. So the truth is, I personally don't know exactly what needs to be done, and there are many corner cases with different types of data sources and so on. So I think it's pretty difficult to do it in a general way. But it can definitely be done in a specific case. If you have a model.bim file and you need it to work with Power BI, it can definitely be done. I've done it on several customer occasions, but it's just, you need to have a firm understanding of how the data sources work differently between analysis services and the Power BI service. So there's this kind of stuff. But yeah, that being said, it can definitely be done. And maybe someone should, I don't know, write a blog post or something about that at some point.
Or make a video.
Yeah, make a video. Yeah.
There you go, Patrick. You were looking for a video idea.
I missed it. Sorry. I was reading a question.
Wasn't even listening. All right. Tom's got a question. Best practice analyzer seems to see my comments as division. Is there a way to tell the BPA to ignore comments? And so I don't know if this is specific to the actual best practice feature in Tabular Editor 3 or the BPA rules that Michael Kowalski wrote, and maybe that rule specifically is picking it up. I think that's what it is.
Yeah, it sounds like this is for a specific rule.
It's for Michael, yeah.
Yeah. There are ways to where you can have the best practice analyzer look at the tokens returned by the parser instead of the actual characters in the DAX code. So this can be solved.
Michael.
But,
yeah. So one thing I will say is Michael did post this out on GitHub, so you can comment on GitHub itself and like submit an issue and whatnot. But I'll make note of this as well, and I'll tell Michael on Monday about it as well. So good feedback. All right. Let's see. I'm looking for Goodley's got one here called, let's see, Tabular Editor 2 had the ability to create calculated columns. I don't see that in Tabular Editor 3.
It's also in Tabular Editor 3. Again, I suspect that you may be connected to a Power BI model on which adding calculated columns is not, a Power BI desktop model in which adding calculated columns is not supported. But again, if you like, you can override this behavior. You may already have this setting enabled on Tabular Editor 2, and that's why you were able to add calculated columns there, because also Tabular Editor 2 would block this by default. But again, you can override this. So if you feel like adding a calculated column to your Power BI desktop model, even though it's unsupported, I won't stop you.
Yes. All right. Power BI in Dubai. As a consultant, I use Tabular Editor 3 in the Power BI desktop file. I share that with clients who don't have Tabular Editor 3. What's the downside?
Are your clients going to edit the data model? In that case, well, you can always tell them to use Tabular Editor 2, the open source version, because they can still, add calculation groups, modify calculation items.
I think the point here is Tabular Editor 3, you're making changes to the model, right? They can still use the model. So it's just a question of what editors they want to use. They could technically just use Power BI Desktop to make changes.
They could use Notepad for like
the best tool ever.
Well, Notepad is hard.
Sorry.
Notepad is hard. Because if you use Notepad, you don't have the integration with the external tools of Power BI. So this is not easy.
So, but just know that it's not going to stop them from using the Power BI desktop file. But just be aware also of the unsupported features if you're doing this directly against Tabular Editor, against Power BI desktop. There may be some things that cause problems on their end if you did something that didn't take correctly on the Power BI desktop side. So, excellent. All right. Bump it up against the clock here. We got a few more minutes. Let's see here. So let's see. Keel's got one. It's interesting. Why would the encoding doesn't change when we change it to hash to value in Tabular Editor 2 and refresh the data? Okay, so that's not Tabular Editor specific. So I don't know, Marco, if you want to talk about that, or Patrick, I know you had some experience with that too. And...
No, that's all Marco.
Yeah,
that's Marco.
Because
it depends.
Yeah, it depends. There are the short answer is that maybe that column cannot be converted to value encoding. There are restrictions to use the value encoding, so you can provide a suggestion, but the suggestion could be ignored. Moreover, if you have a column used in a relationship, you can change it, but when you refresh the entire model, you will go back to the hash encoding again, in any case.
Yeah, Johnny put in the chat exactly what I was thinking. It's just a hint. It's just a hint.
Yeah,
it's not a guarantee.
I was gonna say, and I think that's what people miss about it. And it says encoding hint. You're trying to be smarter than the analysis services engine. So
sometimes it goes.
You're not as smart as me. You're not as smart as me. I'm smarter. Look, Marco's like, nah.
All right. So we're almost at time here. So we're gonna put this out with a little levity. Matthew Roach had a question specifically for Daniel. Can he pay you to build tools for teams that let him use keyboard shortcuts as well?
I would love to.
Maybe a business opportunity, Daniel.
Maybe. I'm afraid I'm just too busy at the moment. Sorry, Matthew.
All right, guys, we are at time. So thank you so much for all the questions. I know we didn't get to everything. Hopefully you got exposed a little bit to Tabular Editor 3, got a little excited, maybe want to take a better look, there is a free trial available if you just want to play around with it for 30 days. You can absolutely do that to kick the tires a little bit, give it a dry run, and see if you like the features and whatnot. Daniel and Marco are both on Twitter as well, so I've got links down in the description below if you want to continue the conversation there. And I know, Daniel, you're always happy to respond to folks as well. Same with Marco and us as well. And Tom, thank you for the super chat as well. Very much appreciated. All right, so check out Tabular Editor 3. Go have fun with it, and let us know. Give feedback, and we'll that'll be improved over time as well. All right.
Have a nice weekend.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Daniel, Marco, for hanging out with us. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.